Hi everyone, my name is Gabriel and this is the Hour of the Raven, your channel for everything Ravenloft, RPG, Dungeons and Dragons, and horror.
Today we will explore the history of Demise and explore the tragic past of this island surrounded by secret and mysteries. Before we begin, a few clarifications. Today we will explore the domain of Demise and we will expand our reference sources to address this domain. Our exploration through the mists in the core domains of Ravenloft generally cover domains that had already been featured in novels, adventures, and especially in the Ravenloft Gazetteers, books that provide detailed information about the domain and their Dark Lords. Up until now, I have been careful to present Ravenloft in my videos using official sources. However, in the case of the Demise and other domains not previously covered by the Ravenloft Gazetteers, I intend to expand on the sources of information. The domain of the Demise first appeared in the Monstrous Compendium Volume 2 and received a brief mention in the book Domains of Dread. The domain would be covered in one of the 3rd edition Gazetteers, focused on the domains of the Sea of Sorrows, but unfortunately, White Wolf's license to release books for the setting came to an end, and these books were not written. The Ravenloft fan community wouldn't let the setting rot in oblivion. The Fraternity of Shadow website, the most well-known and organized site for fans of the setting, has published netbooks that continue the Gazetteer's proposal, exploring in-depth the domains of dread. Some of these books explore the Nocturnal Sea, the domains of Soreng, or the cluster of Zerisha, for example, and for some time now they are developing a gazetteer for the Sea of Sorrows. Although the Sea of Sorrows gazetteer is not yet finalized, some of its passages describing domains have already been previewed by their authors in the Court of the Raven netbooks. In the video description, I will leave the link where you can download it. The next videos about the Demise will be based on the official material and the article about the domain written by Ron Lauffer. The article on the Demise was published as a preview of the Sea of Sorrows Gazetteer, and it's possible that the final text will change when the Gazetteer is finally published. Are you ready? To escape the horrors of Markovia, we stow away on a ship. After being discovered, we are forced to jump into the ocean, to escape, and swim to the island of Demise. After scaling its rocky cliffs, we explore its desolate landscape until we find, at its center, a massive dormant volcanic caldera, covered in dense vegetation and a disturbing silence. As night falls, we notice the arrival of strange fairy-like creatures who began to roam the jungle, tending the plants as if in a vast garden. When necessity overcomes fear and caution, we leave our hiding place and approach these creatures, but most of them quickly scatter and disappear upon our arrival. Only one of them remains behind and look at us with almost childlike curiosity. We plead for help, shelter, or means of escape, but it simply looked at us indifferently until, with an enigmatic smile, it gestured for us to follow it. It leads us out of the caldera and points out a cave before abandoning us without further explanation. As we enter this cave, we realize that the cave was once inhabited. Someone once made their home and refuge on the island here, perhaps a shipwrecked person like us, and we find old notes recording part of the history of this mysterious island.
Hour of the Raven.
The island of Demise is shrouded in mystery and enigma, and its desolation and isolation make it nearly impossible for historians to unravel its past. Although there is no precise record of when the island emerged from the mists, It is certain that until 685 of the Barovian calendar, the maritime charts of Lamordian navigators did not indicate the presence of this island above the region known as the Fingers, indicating only an area of open sea. Researchers point to the first records of its presence in a popular seafaring song known as Her Voice from the Black Island, whose first recordings date from these periods and which gained popularity at the turn of the century. Although cartographic records reported the mysterious emergence of this desolate island, its remote and difficult to access location and lack of inhabitants or exploitable resources prevented many sailors from exploring it. The island aroused the curiosity of explorers, but it especially arouses the fear and superstition of sailors, who consider the place haunted and ominous. There are sinister reports of a beautiful female voice heard on the island, capable of luring sailors to its vicinity, causing serious accidents. A large number of shipwrecks occurred near the island after its discovery. The dark reputation of the island took on new proportions when records of a castaway found adrift in a wooden barrel were found and brought back to Lamordia. This document became the oldest written record of the island and recounts the tragic fate of the ship Doma Ordana. This small merchant ship usually sailed between Landerdorf and Martyria Bay, but on one of its voyages it encountered a terrible storm south of the region known as the Fingers. Its commander, Captain Johann Werner, decided to steer clear of the storm by sailing around the island of Agony, and was surprised to find the island of Demise, where the maps indicated only open sea. The surprise of the discovery did not divert the ship from its course, but a terrible accident occurred due to a bad weather and low visibility when the ship collided with something below the sea surface. The ship sank into the stormy waters, and most of the crew perished in the accident. Only its captain and 5 of his men managed to cling to the floating wreckage and reach Demise. The group of survivors managed to escape the dangerous rocky walls and reach the desolate plateaus of Demise. The record continues with their exploration of the island, recounting the difficulty of finding water and food supplies in its desolation, until they finally reached the caldera in the center of the island, where hot springs emerged from the ground. There, they found a vast expanse of jungle, but no life forms. For a few days, the account recounts how the survivors camped in the jungle, where they recovered from their ordeals after the shipwreck. Soon, they began planning a means of escape, and the captain ordered them to explore the island to try to find materials to build boats that could take them back to the mainland. The account reveals a major discovery by Captain Werner, who found a structure of strange architecture made of white stone in the center of the jungle. After exploring its vegetation-covered perimeter for a while, he found an entry archway covered in unknown rooms and decided to summon his companions to explore the structure's interior. The next morning, Werner and his sailors entered the structure in the woods and discovered it to be a vast maze with very similar corridors and rooms. Despite taking precautions, the castaways became lost within the endless structure and were unable to find their way out. The records reveal the captain's desperation for leading his crew members once again into a mortal danger that defied logic. During their exploration of these empty halls, they found only a few beautiful statues, perfectly depicting humanoid figures of various races. Despite the perfection of these statues' features, they all had in common their faces contorted in horror and revulsion. Unable to escape and exhausted, they camped in the maze, leaving one of the explorers as a guard. However, while the castaways and survivors slept, a strange horror befell the group. The captain's account revealed how the watchman who guarded his companion's sleep was transformed into a grotesque statue with a look of horror in his face. Frightened, the survivors redoubled their efforts to find a way out, but for days, reports revealed only the despair of those trapped in a labyrinth with no exit, which seemed to defy logic or reason. In the report, some sailors had begun to hear footsteps and moving shadows, while their sanity seemed to be tested. Little by little, those who strayed for any reason were found as statues, and sometimes only a scream of agony served as their last words. Finally, the last survivor was Captain Werner. Knowing that some monstrosity lurked in the corridors, and fearing that the sight of the creature could be the cause of his companion's petrification in horror, he covered his eyes with a bandage so that he could only see below the creature's waist, and armed himself with a big knife to retaliate against any attack. Eventually, the creature hunting in the labyrinth approached him, and he was surprised to hear a woman's husky, seductive voice, assuring him that she meant him no harm, and that she had chosen him from among his companions to be her partner. Captain Werner saw beneath the sash the waistline of a beautiful female figure and was mesmerized by her voice and beauty. The woman approached him, and the captain was about to rip off his blindfold when he heard the strange hissing of snakes and regained his wits. Without thinking or looking at what he was doing, he struck with the knife, and the creature's scream indicated that he had hit his target. The creature tried to retaliate and rip off his blindfold. The captain quickly looked away, but something struck his eyes, as if the snakes he had heard had spat a powerful venom into his eyes. Werner was blinded by the poison, and heard the creature, wounded by his blow, threaten his life, promising a slow and painful death. He fled blindly and, stumbling through the corridors of the labyrinth, miraculously found a way out, escaping with his life. Somehow, the blind Werner managed to complete his account in scribed form. It is presumed that he survived for a time on the island, and that he somehow placed his accounts into a wooden barrel and cast it into the sea, hoping that someone would learn his story and perhaps save him from the isolation. Captain Werner's records fueled fear and curiosity about the island. Although no official Lamorgian expedition were conducted there, it is certain that the island has received some visitors over the years, seeking its treasures and mysteries, with some managing to return alive to report their discoveries. No other accounts of the labyrinth's interior have survived to reach historians, but some experts point out that none has yet been able to decipher the runes of the entrance of the maze, not even with magical aid. The structure is very ancient, with an architectural style unrelated to other cultures of the mists. An interesting discovery recovered from the island was a grimoire owned by a magic user called simply Omega. With inventive protective spells, The grimoire gained some notoriety among magic users and is currently in Vatican with the gnome mage Perseus Laterna. In a dark cave on the island, we read the diary and records that tell the tragic story of the ship Doma Ordana, written in a strange scroll. Could we be looking at Captain Werner's records and the cave where he took refuge after his accident? As we ponder the discovery, a very elderly man dressed in rags and completely blind approaches silently, guiding himself to the cave with a touch of his hands, as he carries a freshly caught fish. Amazed by this arrival, we call out Captain Werner's name, and he seems surprised to hear another human voice say his name. He invites us to meal what he caught over a makeshift fire, and we inundate him with questions about his situation and the island. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and let's unveil the secrets held by the island of Demise.